The whole reveal of the RB19 was in New York as Red Bull wanted to try and expand their market in the United States. The car reveal itself was a very underwhelming if we're all being honest. We all sat there for up to an hour hearing a lot of talk from Horner, Verstappen, Perez and even Ricciardo before we actually saw the RB19. The so-called new livery was pretty much exactly the same as the 2022 car, which for many fans was expected, but it is very disappointing not to see any change whatsoever from Red Bull. But this was not the only thing that came out from this Red Bull launch. Before the launch took place, it was announced that Ford would be entering Formula 1 in 2026, but the team was unknown. But with speculation in the past few weeks pointing towards Red Bull announcing its partnership with Ford in 2026. Well, this was the case, and from 2026 onwards, the engines in the back of the Red Bull will be called Ford Powertrains. In this video, we're going to answer a few questions. What does this mean for Honda? How will this change Red Bull? And we will talk about this move in today's video. Let's get right into it. On to a question that's on everyone's mind, and that is, what will Ford actually do when they join Red Bull in 2026? Well, to understand that, we have to understand that in 2026, we will see all these new engine regulations that will cause a massive change amongst the grid, with many other car brands coming into the sport. As we know, Audi will be taking over from Sauber from 2026 onwards, and we cannot forget about Porsche, who was very close to joining Red Bull, of course, but they got too big for their boots and asked for stupid amounts of money. 2026 for sure will be a big year in the sport, and some teams could come up the grid whilst others could fall back, depending on how well they develop their engine between now and then. To answer the question of what Ford will do when they join forces with Red Bull in 2026, well, they will only be taking charge of the engine side of things, while Red Bull still develop their car as they do every single year. It's not a takeover for Ford, so we've still been seeing Red Bull on the grid. It will just be called the Ford Powertrains, and they will be in the Red Bull cars and maybe the AlphaTauri cars, unless they decide to split from the Red Bull family, which is a massive possibility, but that's a discussion for another video. Ford will have a big role in making sure that the Red Bull will have the right power and reliability when it comes to the races. The Red Bull engine in 2022 was the first without Honda as the name, and it was Red Bull Powertrains, and they did pretty well after they fixed the few little issues that they had at the start of the season. Ford will have a lot of pressure on themselves, but it is something that Red Bull clearly believes in, as they have chosen them as partners when they could have easily continued to be the Red Bull Powertrains. Ford is also a massive brand in the States, and it is clear that that is a market that Red Bull wants to tap into, as we saw them having their car launch in New York. Red Bull is also said to have 3 different liveries in Miami, Texas and Las Vegas, made by the fans, showing how much they want to be in the American market. Their signing of Daniel Ricciardo as a 3rd driver and someone who will be helping the promotional side of the team is a massive indication that they want to get this US market cracked. It does kind of make sense with the growth of Formula 1 all over the world, but especially in America, that Red Bull wants to get as much revenue from the States that they can. But overall, it is a very exciting time for people at Red Bull, and also for Ford, who is going to be more than likely to have their logo on the Red Bull car that will be seen by millions. So, for both sides, this is a deal that makes total sense. But what do you think of this deal? Will it be successful for them both, or will they fail? And could it be like the McLaren and Honda situation? Let us know in the comments below. Now, on to what will happen to Honda going forward after this move was announced. Well, it's very interesting, of course. Honda left the sport officially after the end of 2021 season, but they are still in the sport, still to this very day. The engines that are now under Red Bull Powertrains are Honda engines, and Honda employees still help Red Bull in the factory, and that DNA is all over the engines, and they still play a big part in the sport. Now, of course, with Ford coming in 2026, Honda will play no parts, it seems, with Red Bull, and they will possibly leave the sport forever and not come back. However, even though Honda apparently left the sport in 2021, it registered as an engine manufacturer from the 2026 until 2030. This is very interesting as it suggests that Honda could be back on the grid, and with what team, we do not know yet. One possibility could be AlphaTauri, as they do not have an engine partner for 2026, and Red Bull Powertrains do supply the engines for their sister team as it stands. But will the Ford engines go into the AlphaTauri? We are not too sure, and this may not be the case, and Honda could be the one to take over the AlphaTauri going forward. Honda was very successful with Red Bull, and they clearly have the facilities to provide top quality engines for a Formula One team. But what team could this be? Well, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with them in the coming years. What does this move actually mean for Red Bull as they move forward, wanting to dominate as they did in 2022? Well, it does mean a lot for the team as soon as we hit 2026. Up until then, this move means nothing. After 2026, Ford, of course, will be in charge of the engine, as we talked about earlier on in the video. But it will mean a lot more. For starters, it is more than likely that we've seen some sort of Ford logo on the car, which could cause a change to the livery, which will be a very welcome change, of course. We will still see the iconic navy blue and red that we've seen from Red Bull, but Ford could change all of that. Another change that could come from Red Bull is that it's very possible that Ford could look for a majority stake within the team if they become successful. Ford is a huge brand all over the world, and they could easily want to take a majority stake in the team and make the team even better than it is right now. However, only issue about this is that Porsche aimed to take a majority stake and Red Bull declined as they thought they were getting too big for their boots, and they decided to step back from the deal that seemed like it was going to happen. Overall, it is fair to say that this change for Ford taking a huge role in Red Bull's engines going forward from 2026. But the main question that is on everyone's mind after this move was announced is, will it succeed? For a big team like Red Bull, they have a quick and reliable engine, so this is a risk that could fall flat on its face or be a massive success. I guess we will all have to wait until 2026 to see what really happens with Ford and Red Bull. What do you think of this announcement from Ford? Will it help their brand as they will be back on the pinnacle of motorsport, or will they get it wrong and it will be a big failure? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure you like this video and hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this one.